All right, hello class. So I'm going to get us started today by going through a couple of elements in the course. Let me get this going. And there we go. Okay, so in week 2, I have a couple of tasks for us. You have a, oops, there we go. So we're going over the Joyce and Updike stories this week. You also have a topic proposal. I'm going to be commenting on those. And, just for a couple of examples here, Nathan talks about looking at the job market in information technology and computer science. And that is one of those fields where the profession requires degrees of certain types in certain situations, and sometimes not. If you can demonstrate the skill, you can get right into a job. So the path that the individual student or prospective applicant would take can vary. So he's going to be looking into that. There's certainly a lot of potential for common ground. And Evelyn talks about the raising the age of for buying tobacco. This is an excellent choice for a topic because it certainly is in the news, and the policy just recently changed. If you go around to Walgreens or gas station or anywhere, you'll notice that people have to be 21 to now purchase tobacco. And there's a balance, in looking at common ground, you balance the public health arguments versus personal liberties. And I think the comparisons to the military and voting, certainly are relevant there. And the cutoff age of 18 or 21 comes up in a lot of different situations, including alcohol. There was a famous Supreme Court case on this, on alcohol in particular, that actually started with a lawsuit in Oklahoma. Oklahoma used to have a law where women could buy alcohol at 18 and men had to wait until they were 21. And a liquor store and an individual in Stillwater actually sued over that policy on the basis of gender discrimination. And their attorney was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's now on the Supreme Court. And the end result of that case was that it got raised to 21 for everybody, which was the opposite of what they wanted, but was a landmark case in terms of laws and their applications to gender. But in any case, this policy, clearly is something that kind of has been in the works for a long time. You could see things going in this direction. So there's a lot of potential there for common ground. So I think that's an excellent example of a topic to choose. So as the class responds to this, I will be responding on the discussion board. And what you're looking for in my response is approval for your topic, but also some thoughts on some initial directions for this essay. One thing to keep in mind is that we are actually going to use this essay topic for that short 3 to 5 page paper, but you're also going to expand that in order to write the longer essay for the course. So the research paper, and that will involve using some of the material that you have for this current project, expanding upon it, adding more sources, adding more commentary. And let me take us now into some of the other material for the course. We have another discussion board this week over Joyce and Updike and their similarities. And a lot of you have been responding there, so very good. And it's something that, it's a plausible reading either way. And when we talk about similarities and inspiration, people have said that Updike is kind of modernizing the story. That's debatable. They certainly have some thematic similarities. Both deal with a anticipation and disappointment of a young person. So both are these formative learning experiences that they have. So in that respect, they certainly have some similarities. But the protagonist in A and P is a bit older, and the circumstances are different. He's working a job. He has more independence in that respect. But he doesn't, in the same way in Araby, he doesn't fully think through everything that he's going to do. And most importantly, if he were to fail, what happens next? And they both reach that epiphany at the end of those respective stories. The other thing that I was having you work on this week is chapter 2 in your book, and I have a quiz over chapter 2. And chapter 2 deals with becoming a critical reader, and this certainly is relevant for what we're discussing, in terms of reading these stories, and also as you move forward as a researcher. The chapter talks about stages of reading: previewing, knowledge integration, recall, and those fall into 3 broad categories. The previewing stage is where you assess what you're going to be reading, and sometimes this involves reading up on the author. If it's a book, reading the dust jacket or whatever it tells you. Sometimes for academic books, I read the reviews of the book before I actually read the text. That can give you a sense of layout. Looking at things like the table of contents, certainly. When you're doing academic research, you'll often look to the index and see if the terms that you're looking into show up there. So all of that is part of the process. Knowledge integration is where you pull things from the text that relate to and build on your own knowledge. So you're ruminating on it, you're processing what you're reading, and then the ability to recall is where you can take something you've read and explain it to someone else. So there's tips here. Some of the textbook deals with just strategies for studying and learning. I talk about managing your reading time, thinking about purpose, so what you're wanting to achieve when you're reading. Reading expectations as well. So the idea that as a critical reader, you, when researching, have a good sense of what you're finding and what you're looking for. And I have some descriptions of that. We'll look a lot at academic databases as well, and we will certainly be using those. Knowledge integration is another area that I talk about here. So you set off your purpose for your reading assignments, and making sure that you actually understand the text is important. So I talk about monitoring your comprehension in the chapter. So a couple things that you can do with respect to that: summarizing, asking and answering questions, making sure that you don't read in a vacuum. That means that you're discussing what you read with someone, whether it's just someone or someone within the course in our discussion boards. That's where I try to build in that type of engagement. And then the third stage is recall. So recall is important because when you think about writing a research paper, you are not just copying and pasting quotes and placing them in there. You're integrating that material into your ideas. You're using it to produce new knowledge. So in order to do that, you have to have a really strong understanding of it. One of the most difficult things about reading at this level is assessing strengths and weaknesses of something that you're reading. When you are new to a topic, it can feel like, you know, you're learning something from everything that you read, and you don't have a frame of reference to decide what material is better than something else, or who's more accurate than someone else. And in my field, in literature and medieval studies in particular, there's obviously a range of interpretations people can have for any text. So building, you know, your own perspective from the sources that you read is crucial to that process. Okay, and the chapter then lays out a particular reading strategy. You survey the text in advance, form questions before you start reading, read, recite, review. So the survey section, that relates to that step of previewing that I talked about. So what is it that you're reading? What's it about? Is there a synopsis that you can read, for example? And then, you know, what questions do you bring to the text? That's an important part of research. We'll deal with that when we get to our proposals. Read, it's pretty straightforward. You just read the text. And the note-taking process is part of the recite or record. And then reviewing and reflecting is a process that happens after you're done reading. And I do go over some other active strategies here. I'm not going to go through those in a lot of detail at this time, but certainly those can be helpful. Have some links here for some resources as well. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 2 deals with reading and reading strategies. Okay, so to recap, this week you need to complete your topic proposal. This is just an informal discussion board, so there's no need to upload a document or anything. And we then have a discussion board over Joyce and Updike, and make sure that you also take the chapter 2 quiz. And I will have some feedback on all those proposals for you, try to give you some direction moving forward, and we will then pick up with all of that when we meet next week. We have a few other another reading assignment, another discussion board, and we will certainly be discussing that. Okay, so that is all for the Zoom portion, and you can use the rest of the class time to work on your projects, work on your assignments. You know, if you're watching this as a recording, and you know, I'm talking about class time, the way I want you to think about it is, if you were here sitting in a classroom and I spend 20 or 25 minutes lecturing and going over everything, the rest of that class time on campus would be spent researching, writing, etc. So you want to build that time, that, you know, approximately an hour or 50 minutes, into your routine. Whether you do it now, whether you take a break and do it later, however you break it up is up to you. That's part of the advantage of this format. But that's work that you need to put in. So just be considering that as you plan out how you'll engage with all of this. Your quick note on attendance: I've been using YouTube to post these sessions, and I'm still kind of working on ways to facilitate actually marking attendance from that. I think I can do that by you clicking on the video in Canvas. I'll get back to you on that, but for now, you know, just watch these. Don't worry too much about that. I'll let you know if there's something else that you need to do as far as that goes. All right, so have a great weekend. Thank you, and I will see you all on Zoom on Monday morning.